today I'm here to talk about my mum, my late mother Lynn, who unfortunately died in 2001 because she was a chronic alcoholic. And I think you've got a picture of her that you're probably going to show. I really wanted to come on to highlight what is really a secret scandal in today's society regarding the children of alcoholics and the fact that they have no support whatsoever. I happened to be wandering through the Houses of Parliament a few months ago and I bumped into Kim Woodburn from Kim and Aggie, the cleaners. And she said she was involved with this wonderful helpline called NACOA, which is the National Association for the Children of Alcoholics. And essentially that they were taking calls, increasingly so in recent times, from very young children whose parents essentially are too drunk to look after them properly and they have nowhere else to turn. In my experience, my mother was a fabulous, glamorous and gregarious woman who unfortunately alcohol took a grip of her whole life and she lost everything.
What was your childhood like?
Well, my childhood, I would say, actually, thanks to my father being so supportive and my brothers, who I'm still very close to, and the fact that my mother, half of the time, was a really good mother, was joyous and fortunate, and I had a very middle-class upbringing and I was privately educated, and as a result, I think, of my mother's alcoholism, I threw myself into academia, and I wouldn't be the woman I am today without her inspiration, but also her issues to deal with. Having said that, why I want to highlight this is I was probably one of the lucky ones. I had some counselling, I had a lot of family support, I had my father there. Some children who are ringing this helpline don't have that network. Perhaps they're not fortunate enough to me, as we were, to be comfortably well off. They don't have the support at home. Perhaps they have two parents who are alcoholics. And the more I've looked into this journalistically, the more I've realised these children, and there's 2.5 million of them in Britain at a conservative estimate, are basically not having any help at all, either at a local authority level or at a government level. And I think that's a scandal that needs to change.
And obviously these are the ones that are picking up the phone that we even know about it. There must be a whole lot more that don't even know that that's available. Society, is that an issue here? Because we have a drinking culture in this society. It's almost weird if you don't have a drink on a night out. People go, oh, what are you not having a drink for, you know? So are we to partly blame for this?
I think there's a casualised attitude to drink these days that hasn't perhaps been around when my mother was growing up. I mean, Sonia will be able to comment on what might drive, you know, women or men to drink later in life. I certainly think that alcohol prices are cheaper now in the supermarkets than they were 50 years ago.
Than soft drinks?
In the old days, you used to go to the pub and have a couple of social drinks. These days, at every given turn, alcohol is present. Somebody's born, have a drink. Someone dies, have a drink. Someone's passed their exams, have a drink. You know, I'm now teetotal. I haven't drank in 7 years because when I had my children, I decided, even though I didn't really have a problem with alcohol, although I was probably a bit of a problem drinker, being in journalism and being the daughter of an alcoholic, I felt I never wanted my children to see me in a changed state. And frankly, stopping drinking was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it helped me deal with my mother's death, but it's also just freed me because I'm not a slave to this notion that we constantly have to go out and lace every given occasion with drink. And I think, yes, society needs to take drinking more responsibly because there's this notion like there's nothing wrong with going home and having a bottle of wine. Well, there is, because having a bottle of wine in a night is too much wine.
Yeah. I know, absolutely. Sonia, let's come to your situation then, because for you, your relationship with drink changed when you were about 27, and you had a relationship that had broken down. Your mum tragically died, and so that moment you hit the bottle.
To be honest, I was drinking well before that, and I struggled with my mother's death, but frankly, I drank through it. 10 weeks ago, I lost my dog I'd had for 12 years, and that was my first bereavement because it was my first sober bereavement.
Right,
and when I lost my dog, I didn't have any coping skills because I'd never experienced it before. Everything now is a new experience.
So when you were pregnant, you stopped drinking, and then you had Christopher and started again.
Yeah.
And so, what was his childhood like?
Christopher and I have a really good relationship, and he's not my mentor or my therapist. Oh, there he is, my lovely boy, or my counsellor or anything like that. So within the parameters of what's appropriate for a mother and son, we talk a lot. And he would say it was fine, but of course he didn't know any different. His normal was not normal. And I tell him regularly that it was not as it should be. I'm a very honest person. I knew for many, many years before people were aware that I was an alcoholic. I never lied to myself. I just couldn't stop. I didn't expect to be here now. I just didn't expect to be alive. And I wasn't emotionally available. he wasn't nurtured the way he should be. I was on my own with him completely. I do have a lovely partner, but we don't live together, we never have. And Christopher, there is no doubt in my mind that even if he's not aware of it now, it will have affected every area of his life, because when you're a child of an alcoholic, the person's not drunk, they're a different person, it's a very, very unstable, insecure environment.